All right, we're running about an hour and 15 minutes behind schedule, so we're going to jump right into the Municipal Auditorium budget hearing. We have with us Mr. Bob Sconey, the Auditorium Manager, and Ms. Aaliyah Armstrong, the Commission Chair. And I will turn the floor over to Mr. Sconey.
Thank you. Bob Sconey with Nashville Municipal Auditorium, the General Manager, and with me I have Aaliyah Armstrong, who is our Chair of the Auditorium Commission. Also in the audience I have Charlene Bethhart, which is also on the Auditorium Commission. And we had John Landers with us earlier, but he had to leave due to a commitment with the CMA Fest. And also I'd like to recognize Heidi Runyon, who helps with our finances at the Convention Center. And she's with us this evening, and we still have a relationship with them there at the auditorium. Also, I have Brandon Destin, who is an intern from University of South Carolina, with us this summer, also in the audience. Just opening comment. Auditorium's coming up on its 50th anniversary in October. We'll be 60 years old, like a lot of other, well, 50 years old, like a lot of other things in the Metro government this upcoming year. But I'm glad to report that we've had an uptick of business in the last 4 years. Revenues are showing it, especially in our ticket sales. We've increased ticket sales from the last year from 60,000 to 121,000 from the previous year. And I put in our budget this year that we need some help in our ticketing operation for an assistant ticket manager, and we had that put in the budget for this upcoming year. So and also this person will be helping with our financial operations, because we do a lot more than just the ticketing. We do the deposits, we do the payroll and all the EBS and the now procurement and things like that we do in-house. But the Convention Center still helps us with their guidance for helping us maintain our books. But I just want to thank the 8 full-time employees that we do have at the auditorium for their dedication in keeping the building up, and also the people at the Convention Center for their help. And General Services helps us on a lot of different projects that we have to keep the building up, and they're always a great service to us. So closing, thank you for your service to our city, and I'll entertain any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Sconey. I'm going to ask all council members keep their questions pertinent to the budget for the sake of time. Council Member Langster.
You would preface that before my question. Just a quick compliment, Mr. Sconey. I visit the auditorium every year for the OVC tournament. It is immaculate. Continue to do a good job, and we appreciate the job that you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Langster. Council Member Holloman.
Just wanted to follow up a little bit on the new FTE that you have. Yes. Can you explain a little bit? I think you did somewhat about the job duties, but is that something that you see as an immediate need, that you've basically been understaffed for a period of time, or is it something that you think you have some capacity for now and the position will grow to capacity, as I assume you hope to grow ticket sales in the auditorium?
Well, with the uptick that I've had, like from the previous two, over doubling in the last year, and I'm tracking again for this upcoming year for that same amount of tickets to be sold, it's putting pressure on we have just one person, and they supplement themselves with part-time people on the nights of the evenings of the shows, but he's there for all the events, and then if he went down, I don't have a backup. I could face it when we weren't having such a volume of tickets, but it's fearsome now with the new pressure that there is on ticketing. They reclassify tickets. There's Groupon. There's not Magic Jack, that's a telephone thing, but there's a whole bunch of different types of things that is changing in that industry, and it's much more time consuming, but it is also a big big revenue source for us.
Well, that was my other question. Do you see it tracking in terms of projections of sales? I mean, I assume this person has the capacity to increase your group sales particularly. Is that a fair statement?
The one person that we don't, we have one, but we need more help to be able to delve into group sales, yes. And this would be
an
enhancement to the whole operation to improve our revenue.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Holloman. Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you all. I mean, I think you all clearly maximize that aged building in ways that are very positive. You got to help me, though, because it's a little counterintuitive here.
Okay.
You all are clearly got more business there this year than last.
Yes.
But the subsidy doesn't reflect that. So, and I understand that public buildings, one of the great misnomers in this world is that really many of them anywhere on earth are self-sufficient. The more business you have, the more expense you have, and that's why it all sort of seems to be a wash in terms of the difference between what your actual revenues are for the building and what we are then putting in as a city.
In your question,
Your subsidy number is a little bit up, actually, from last year. Is it not? But you've got more business. So help us, and
Okay.
this is not a trick question.
Yes.
Obviously, when you have more business, then expenses must be going up because of the usage. Is that correct?
Yes, but we have been decreasing the subsidy.
Well, we increased it from when it was $1 million something, and now we're sort of stable at about 580, and it's going to be, what, about 590 this year?
Yeah, I always take a look at what our actual revenues are compared to what our actual expenses are. I know beyond that, I know the finance department does enter in some other different types of, they have to do their types of items, address those issues there, which the auditorium doesn't play a role in. But I think that our subsidy is decreasing each year and continues. It's probably closer into, you're probably in the $200,000 range. The actual, if you
Let me ask you, because I have trouble sort of reading some of these numbers sometimes that we get. Would you, in the next few days, get with the finance department and send us some sort of synopsis of how that has changed over the last several years and how that has gone down? That would be very helpful. When does the Musicians Hall of Fame scheduled to open?
They don't have a hard date yet, but they are in progress, improving the property, building out, and at the same time, the auditorium is doing a lot of improvements monies that were approved to us.
And
but I think
explain to us how that's a revenue source. I mean, are they paying us rent, or are they giving us a portion of tickets sold once they open?
They're paying a portion of tickets sold.
So they're not a revenue source until they open?
Correct.
Is there any estimate on what we can expect? I mean, are they expected to open in the next year? Let me ask that.
Yes.
Okay, and then at
We
that
hope this
point, is
fall.
there any estimate on what that should be?
There is a guarantee of a minimum of $75,000 a year, but if there isn't in that year, then there is a year for cure in the following year, and then a hard payment has to be made.
Okay, and then my last question, I guess, is a hypothetical question, and I guess it will precede what will be a question before long about privatization of your building. But is there would intuit that now with the arena and you all, and I know that there was cooperation about events, would it make any sense for us as we're looking to be more efficient to have one sort of booking mechanism for our facilities?
There could be. We could take a look at that.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to put anybody out, but I'm just wondering, because my understanding was, for example, in Memphis, when they built the pyramid, which didn't work out so well, but that Mid-South Coliseum did extremely well, but they were booking the same, and they were making sure that the right size event was wherever, and whatever was coming over was sending. Now, I do understand that you all do collaborate, and they do regularly would refer to you all. Is that not the case?
That's the case. I mean, they sent us 2 pieces of business this week that we're working on right now.
Well, I do think as we're increasingly looking at efficiencies that both organizations ought to be looking at that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Stein. Councilmember Taggart.
You threw me the softball. Thank you. All right. So, Bob, Ms. Runyon gave me the actual subsidies here that Councilman Stein. So this is straight from your office. 4 years ago, $877,000. 3 years ago, $669,000. 2 years ago, $599,000. Last year, $585,000, and this year's budget projected to go up to $592,000. So we're talking over $500,000 of taxpayer subsidy. So I guess the question is, maybe this is a board question, is it time for this board to get with the mayor's office and to this body and talk about, is privatization an option that needs to be seriously considered, especially in light with ticket sales doubling, but the projected deficit subsidy is going up? Something just is shocking there to me.
If I could, just make sure we're on the same page, which one are you referring to?
Well, this is a sheet that,
Okay. Okay. I can only speak to the first two lines on this. Okay. Councilman?
yeah,
Okay, I can only speak to the ovations account and also the revenues that the auditorium produces. The rest is produced by the finance department, correct? But that's what I do know. Yeah, I mean, but she...
step up here
she is-
and tell me where
is-
those numbers came from.
Actually, give you a little bit of clarification. The numbers are from EBS. The budget number, I think what you're looking at is the budget number going up from last year to this year by
Correct.
$6,900. But if you look at their actual expenses from last year to this year, their expenses are actually going up like $85,000, I think, from the previous year. So generally, they're actually absorbing some of those increases in expenses through their operating revenues. And a lot of those increases, too, are also from internal service fees and fringe adjustment and things like that that are out of their control that generally would increase their subsidy along with the increase in expense from central adjustments. So I know it does look like their budgeted subsidy is increasing, and it is, but it's also reduced, the amount of the increase was reduced by them absorbing some of those revenue.
Well, in these tax times, unfortunately, we can talk about the benefits and the kid shows and the roller girls and you know, the unique venue that the auditorium provides, and we can talk about the community benefits generated, but ultimately, when the taxpayers are asked to write a $600,000 check,
Understood.
is the only thing that...
And last year, they did receive their entire subsidy. They also have a budgeted subsidy, and then sometimes there's a little bit of a difference
Right.
between what actually gets transferred and, you know, if it's
Right.
the entire amount. And last year, the decision was made by the Division of Accounts or Mr. Riebling to transfer the entire amount. But I don't know that, you know.
All right, so
the
let me
revenue
turn my question, Mr. Chair, since this is strictly a financial budget, to our board chair, and there's a microphone in front of you. Is there a strategy from the board to explore privatization, partnerships, advertising, promotion, anything that will improve that roughly $600,000 bottom line that the taxpayers must foot?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's certainly something that has not been discussed at this point, but something we can get with Heidi and Bob and the rest of the commission and potentially have the discussion about.
What is the expertise of your fellow board members? Are you comfortable that you have a diverse enough board and a business, entrepreneurial, promotional background? Or if not, do we need to put the call out for anything from interns to business leaders in the community and the deputy mayor to sit in and tell us what it takes to recreate a vibrant, more vibrant, but more profitable institution?
Right. Well, I definitely think we have a very diverse commission that has a myriad of experience in terms of business. My degree was actually in entrepreneurship as well. So it's something that I think we could have the conversation about initially. And if we find that going forward we do need some help to reach out to you all, certainly. Thank you for the offer.
What kind of timeline would you expect to be reasonable to start this conversation and to reasonably come up with some conclusions?
I think that would be something that I would need to defer to Bob and the rest of the commission to see what all would be involved and then get back with you as far as an
We look
exact
forward to
answer.
hearing back from you. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Councilman Bedney.
Thank you. If I understand correctly, we lose money because every time we have an event, we have to add money to make it happen. Is that a correct assessment?
I'd say it's the other way around. It's probably the days that are in between that you don't have an event that you're not taking in revenue. So no, it's you can't just possibly try and book it every day, but and then you don't have some components in place. One part that we don't have for revenue is parking, but the city does enjoy the parking. We also don't, and that doesn't show up on our bottom line, but the city does enjoy that, and also the people that come and stop in on the restaurants and pick up a tank of gas, and also, the people that we put in hotels when we do certain types of conventions, and that stay in our restaurants and stay overnight when we do a type of Amway type of convention, and also the tourists that stop in town and spend time in the conventions and that. So, those things aren't showing up on our bottom line as far as their economic impact. There's definitely one to the city.
So I know this is going to get me in trouble with lots of people that went to a concert at the auditorium, but if we have the auditorium and the convention center that is getting ready to open, and the arena and the old convention center and the stadium, why do we also need to have the old auditorium? Why can't we just get rid of it?
Because you're going to see probably an increase in our business once they open up, because a lot of times there's overflow for breakout meetings, for entertainment options, and that's why we're putting the Musicians Hall of Fame in place. We feel that that's going to be a big attraction to people when they want to do their breakout meetings and their entertainment from their clients, that we're going to be a good option for them for that. So
you think, or is this something that...
This is one thing that the commission definitely is seen as an option that we're going to be. We want to continue to try and bring new life into the building as it reaches its 50th anniversary. So,
thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Bedney. Councilman Holloman.
Thank you. I know we need to move on, so I don't want to belabor this, but when you came from Heidi, sorry, could you answer a follow-up question for me? Because I was not exactly understanding. I do understand that the Municipal Auditorium staff doesn't put together the entirety of the financials, but it sounded like you said that the delta in terms of profit and loss was changed by the internal service fees. But what would the nature of those internal service fees be that would be more, that would, in other words, if you've almost doubled your ticket sales, how is it that there are internal service fees that are that much significantly more, that the net result is that you actually have a larger subsidy than you did in the previous year? Can you explain that? I thought what you said earlier was that the reason that the subsidy was greater, even though they had done better on revenue, was related to internal service fees. Did I understand you correctly when you said that?
I was saying generally you keep your expenses and revenues the same. So as their expenses stayed the same, or as their expenses went up from the previous year, generally you could increase the subsidy to cover those costs, which are not controllable by Bob. But we didn't have to increase the subsidy by the total amount of those increases in internal service fees, because he had absorbed some of those increase in revenue in his event revenue.
Okay, but I guess then where I'm getting to, and I think you're getting to it just a different way, is what are the nature of the increasing expenses? I think that's what I'm trying to understand.
His increase in expenses for this coming year is the new position, the box office position, and then there's a fringe benefits increase of $28,300. There's the insurance billing actually went down $2,000, but then there's internal service charges, which is mainly ITS and fleet charges for municipal, that went up $11,600.
And are those like improvements and upgrades?
That would have to be a question directed to ITS and
Okay.
general services. Those are calculated by them. But and then there's a low cap adjustment of $6,200, and then they had the reduction of the one-time pay adjustment from last year too.
Okay. So I guess the largest in that is the additional FTE.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and to get back to, I guess, what I asked earlier, you think that additional FTE will actually net more revenue? In other words, if you invest in that FTE, when you come back next year, it's at least your hope, I assume, that your subsidy is going to be less because you've been able to increase ticket sales, and after you get past this first year of having that additional FTE added, you expect that you'll be able to reduce the subsidy? Is that a reasonable expectation you have?
Always our plan to curb the lower the subsidy, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Holloman. Councilman Tenpenny.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Thank you guys for being here today. My question is, in the past 10 years, what's been, the subsidies of the Municipal Auditorium? Is this something that just goes on every year that we never get even with? I mean, and I'm kind of like my colleague, Mr. Taggart here. It may be time to really look at a privatization of the Municipal Auditorium. We're talking about the Convention Center. We're talking about Bridgestone, Country Music Hall of Fame. We've got the Symphony Hall, and it may be time to really look at something like that. And I was just wondering if you could get me maybe the last 10 years of the subsidies of the Municipal Auditorium. I'd like to see that. And once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilman Tenpenny. Councilman Claiborne?
Yeah, I guess this is a request here since I think Councilman Holloman's question, I had the same question, and apparently we're running into a wall here. Could we ask ITS, what is the Municipal Auditorium doing more of that they haven't been doing to require the 47% increase in the internal service fee? I mean, what makes up that 47%? There's got to be something that they're doing more of than they have been doing that's causing that to happen. And I think we'd...
Well, remember that the ITS charges are apportioned out over all the departments based upon the services that they need. Now, as ITS's overall increases go up, their personnel cost, health insurance, all that, that all gets apportioned out to the various departments so that your costs can go up even though you may not be receiving any additional services. Now, that may not be the case here, but that would be a logical explanation.
Okay, so part of their dilemma here is that they're having to bear part of the burden for another department.
Well, yeah, I mean, for another department when they're using their services.
Right.
I mean, it's like if you had a contract with another company to do your IT services, as the company's cost increase, they're going to charge you more for those services.
Kind of like what we're doing with the budget this year, right?
I like that, but different.
One other question, and this is just a thinking out of the box kind of thing, and you don't have to respond to it, but you talked about the number of days that you don't have business in between the events that you do. You do have smaller conventions in from time to time. Have you ever talked to the Hotel Motel Association in terms of the smaller flag properties that don't have large meeting rooms, but there are perhaps a number of them clustered in the same neighborhood or in the same general vicinity, that if they had a suitable space, they could collectively go for some small convention business that would put people in their beds and using, transportation, get from where that is to your venue to use your space during your dark days and nights. Is that ever?
We actively pursue that.
Oh, have you?
Yes. I mean, we're members of the Convention Visitors Bureau. They just had 2 new employees tour our venue this morning. Also, we got a close relationship with the Doubletree. They're right next door to us, and we do some meetings with them in conjunction when there's an opportunity that presents
I'm talking
itself.
about some properties that are outside of the immediate downtown area. Some smaller properties that don't have the capability of putting a small convention of a few hundred people in, but they, working with one or two hotels that are in the immediate area. For instance, I think in the Music Valley area, there's one area where there are 5 hotels that are within rock throwing distance of each other. They don't have the capability of having, 300, 400, 500 people in. But if they had a space, they might collectively be able to use something like you provide and bus their people back and forth. I don't know. That's just...
Okay. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilman Claiborne. Councilman Tiger.
Yeah, one final question. This time last year, Bob, we sort of joked around, but Councilman Tenpenny mentioned the Bridgestone Arena, and we talked about naming rights of the building.
Part of the deal with the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Musicians Hall of Fame was essentially they get the right to put their name up on the building. So, that's...
Does it preclude the Country Music or Songwriters Hall of Fame sponsored by Crown Ford?
If there's monies involved, then we will enjoy a percentage of that, the auditorium, the Metro will.
Well, I'm just saying, there's no reason why that you couldn't have multiple subtitles in certain way.
That's true, but the name that will be on the building is the Musicians Hall of Fame at the National Municipal Auditorium or something, so it's kind
presented by Crown Ford.
Yeah, it would just wrap around the whole building, I guess.
Well, I'm just saying, we laugh and joke, but to taxpayers, $1 and $500,000 and $600,000 subsidies, and the emails we get from citizens who say, I never will go to LP Field, I will never walk on a greenway, I will never go into a school, I'm 89 years old, I'm living on a fixed income. I don't think these same people are going to say, I'm going to, join Council Lady Langster going to the OVC tournament either. So, we're to a crisis mode that any and all ideas, there's nothing bad, there's nothing that shouldn't be considered. And so, I would just, we talked last year about this time about creating events, going to the Metro Athletic Director and putting together a holiday high school basketball tournament. If that's a downtime or, create events that does something to bring revenue in. We're to the stage now that we've got to have those entrepreneurial ideas. We can't keep draining down because everywhere we go, we're putting fingers in dikes and we don't have enough fingers now.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. With no other council members, we're concluding the budget hearing for Municipal Auditorium. Thank you. And I will be turning the chair back over to our illustrious chairman, Councilman McGuire.